podcast here, we were talking about one in four people having a mental illness in a given year, and lots of people actually suffer mentally. And if anyone is feeling isolated because they feel bad, opening up to the fact that they're not alone, and many people feel that way, is a good step towards recovery, because recovery is likely impossible.
You made a point there that in terms of people not recognizing when they have like mental health needs that may be impacting them is due to the awareness. I will agree. I'll share a personal example actually. There was a time in my life, I have a friend who's a medical doctor, and there was a time in my life that I went through something quite traumatic, but thank God, God helped me through it. And also my family sort of support networks also played a part in promoting my mental health. So in like this time of my life, I actually withdrew myself from everyone. I like shut people out. I would have phone calls, I would just ignore. I didn't want to go out. I just wanted to be under the duvet. And one of my friends, the medical doctor, actually, she just kept reaching out. So some friends were reaching out, they didn't give up. They just didn't say, oh, she's ignoring us. No, they didn't. And she was like, Funke, I actually think you might have depression, because you're showing symptoms of depression. But I actually pushed it away. I'm like, no, I'm not depressed. But when I looked into it, I was like, these are actually symptoms of depression. I'm intentionally isolating myself for a longer period. I'm shutting people off. I just wanted to be alone. I was anxious in picking people's phone calls. I was anxious in receiving texts. So I could see in terms of, I wasn't even aware that was a form of depression until a friend said to me. And given that my friend noticed that, then she started reaching out more, and then I started building that confidence in terms of going out more. Yeah. So awareness is key, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and when you're inside it, you lose perspective.
You won't be able. That's a good point. Yes. You won't be able to see when you're inside it.
So, Evans, is there a particular age range, that children really struggle with mental health issues? Is there a particular age range, maybe, the young ones or toddlers, or is it teenagers or above, or young adults? Is there a particular age? What do you think? Do you think there's a particular age where children really struggle with mental health issues?
So I think there are particular ages where, let's say, there are special pressures. And we've talked already about social media, and clearly that's all the time. But I think there are certainly greater problems associated with important exams. So I'm sure there's more mental distress around GCSE time and A-level time and so forth, or exams early years. And but answering your question, I can't indicate any special age ranges. Said earlier that half of adults that have mental health problems first showed symptoms before they're 18, so clearly things are starting before then. And I think we would look at what are the external pressures that are on people, and exams are certainly one that causes pressure.
Yeah.
So in terms of the age range, obviously we won't be able to put a specific age range, but whenever we start having external pressures, environments, so environment obviously clearly plays an impact.
It does. So all of the things that we think about as causing stress, so moving home or changing school,
bereavement, separation,
or
divorce,
family breakup, all of these things would be contributing, could contribute.
Yeah, could.
So I think there's not, you can't engineer this. You can't say if that happened, this happened, there will be a problem, but these are all things that increase the risk.
Yeah, increase the risk. How do we minimize the risk then? Let me see.
Do we have Facebook?
Yeah, let me just check. People are just saying they are learning. Yeah, we haven't got any sort of comment yet. No, we haven't got any comment yet. If you are watching now, I heard that we lost signal at a time, but we are back online. Just in case you're wondering, we are back online. Yeah, I've seen people like the video. So just look at Children's Mental Health Matters Part 2. Okay, so we are back online. Please do watch. Okay, I know we lost signal a bit, but we are back online. IT, they've confirmed that we may.
Have we been talking to ourselves?
I don't know when we lost signal, but IT will, maybe they will let me know. But I did receive a message that to say we lost signal and we were back online. So that's why if you see me looking at my phone, that's because I'm keeping an eye on.
Good, good.
Because this is a live show, so I need to be monitoring things underneath.
So, Evans, what would you say that parents should look out for in their children, to determine, what their state of mind is? I know it could be a bit tricky,
That's
because,
true.
like you said, Cameron lived with you. He looked happy. He seemed happy.
He went
He
to uni.
was doing well at school. He was very sporty. So physically, it was okay, and you thought it was mentally okay as well. So that's a bit, it's rare, isn't it? Because I remember before the show started, his mom said she used to talk to him like 3 times
So
a
they
week.
had that
So they had a
relationship.
relationship, surprisingly. But I mean, are there signs? Are there things? Or I don't know. Are there
parents
things
to
that
watch
parents
out
can
for?
just watch out for?
Well, I think that one of the big things to look out for is changes.
Okay.
So, Lafrunke,
So changes in the child's behavior.
Yes, so you talked about how a period in your life when you
Yeah.
started with drawing,
Yeah.
and that was different, to your normal behaviour.
Yeah, and
So those sort of changes, and it could be changes, in going out. It could be changes in sleeping patterns, in eating, but things that I would say look for changes.
Okay, let me give you a scenario, for example. So parents should look out for changes in their children and young people that could give them a signs that their child may be showing symptoms or signs of mental health. So let's say a parent notices that their young person that maybe goes to bed around 12 o'clock, and now the child is now going to bed like 2 o'clock, and then 2 is turning to 6 in the morning, and they notice the child is walking around the house a lot or going to the toilet a lot. How should the parent respond if you've noticed the changes in your child? Do you just say, "You're right," and the normal response, "I'm okay, thank you"?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's the biggest lie we ever tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a really, really good question, and I think a difficult one to
It's
answer.
quite
certainly
difficult,
for me
isn't
to
it?
answer. And of course, we're talking. I'm not a medical person, so
Yeah.
I'm talking from my
Oh,
personal
sorry,
experience.
hold on. Maybe we can ask some of our viewers that might be into medical profession.
But
Deborah, I know you are into it. Please, if you do know, once parents have observed signs of mental health or mental needs in terms of their child or young person, how should they respond? We'd like to read from our viewers that are medically trained in this regard. Yeah.
So, I can kick it off by saying that
Yeah.
then, and it sounds simple, but maybe in the day-to-day of family life, it's not always possible. But the first thing is to find a place where you can actually talk about it and listen. And if you have to find a way to get beyond "I'm all right" and shrugging and moving off, it can be. We're all parents. We know it can be frustrating in these conversations, but for me, it's very important to be able to find circumstances to in the end, give your child the opportunity to tell you what's going on, and that would be, again, for me, by remaining calm and gently and consistently asking, and not getting upset about it, but just being
So,
gentle and persistent and calm and
Persistence.
not being so
Shocked.
persistent might be 2 or 3 times a week for several weeks. I don't mean persistent like you lock him in a room.
Oh,
until
no,
he tells
I
you.
meant like
Right,
continuous.
you will tell me what's
Don't
going
just
on.
give up.
Yeah, because again, I also
But-
think you shouldn't.
But without being upset, because you
Yeah.
have to create the environment where your child thinks you're ready to listen without jumping in and criticizing.
Should we also acknowledge that some children and young people may not actually want to talk to their parents? It might be somebody else that they may want to. So should parents
Great point. Yeah.
speak to their children that if you are worried about anything, even if you can't speak to me, you can speak to your aunt,
should they
you can speak to
encourage
your
them to
uncle.
speak to
So
other
maybe
people?
we need to increase the
Yes.
people that, because there's something that I do within my work, and also I do it with my young people in church, that they've got to be able to identify like 5 people on their 5 fingers. It's not just mommy and daddy that should be on these fingers. We need other people. If you're feeling really low, feeling sad, can you please come up with people on these 5 fingers? it can't just be mommy and daddy. We need more people, trusted adults. So I think maybe as like parents can also
Yeah.
Encourage.
it
basically
doesn't
to
mean
encourage
that the
children to
child
talk to other people.
would not require maybe professional support, at least just having that first step,
Yes.
if you
And
if that
I
makes
think
sense.
I think that's great, and sometimes it may even be a brother or sister as well.
Yeah,
so-
sibling, that's true.
But then of course, in the situation you described, we go to bed at 12 and then 2 and then
Yeah.
up all night, then at some point someone's going to see a doctor as well. 'Cause
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, that's, nobody would think that's sort of marginal or not, that's really a bad problem if you're hardly sleeping all night.
That's true. Do you think going to university also brings a pressure?
Because
Because when people are 18 already, we already feel like we're adults. You know,
Kings of the
people
world.
think- Yeah.
Yeah.
People think, oh, 18, going to uni.
So yes, because of course people are going to uni, which is different in itself, and usually or often living away from home for the first time as well. So there's an awful lot changing, and yes, it can be very difficult. The work is different. The way in which you are, basically trusted to get on with work on your own is different from being at school, and you've got to live for yourself too. You've got to manage your money perhaps for the first time. There's an awful lot happening.
We
So
have a
Evans-
comment.
Okay.
Okay, Deborah commented, say, thank you, Heaven, for identifying that mental health spans over various diagnoses. This could be eating. So she elaborated more on it, saying eating disorder. She does work in mental health field. Eating disorder, anxiety, conduct disorder. Could you please explain more about conduct disorder? I don't know what that is about. Psychosis, depression, personality disorder, etc. The first three definitely does get diagnosed in children. So eating disorder get diagnosed,
Psychosis.
anxiety get diagnosed, conduct disorder get diagnosed. It is important that parents have an understanding about mental illness, what is the norm for their children. I agree the parent needs to be persistent without making it an overwhelming task. A trusting environment where open conversation is encouraged and difficult discussion can take place will be useful. Thank you, Deborah, for your comments. So Deborah just shared her views in terms of persistent conversation with the child, a young person, but without making it an overwhelming task. And she explained that children or young people can be diagnosed with eating disorder, anxiety, conduct disorder. But I don't really know what conduct disorder is about. So if you can please comment, let us
Deborah
know.
will tell us. But,
Tell us more about what it's about.
I hope I said
Thank you.
sort of gentle and persistent, because it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
these things can so easily become tense in a family situation, and
Yes.
that's never going to work.
So
And
it's,
the Deborah's answer reminds me of a comment that we had from a school in Solihull, Tudor Grange Academy, where we've done some work with Mrs. Sweetman, who's the head of the sixth form. And as the Cameron Grant Memorial Trust, we organise a night walk every year from Hampton Arden to Barston and back. It takes about 2 hours. It's in the dark, and everyone gets a head torch, and it's all quite good fun. And Laura's son did the night walk as a 6-year-old, and then again as a 7-year-old. He was our champion young walker, and she's told us that as a family, by coming on the night walk, they've had discussions about mental health, and they would have come to they would have come to these discussions anyway, but it was good to open up early, and the whole sort of discussion around coming on the night walk at Cameron Grant Memorial Trust helped open up these discussions and have an open discussion.
I think we might as well use this opportunity for you to tell our viewers more about Cameron
Yeah,
Trust.
yeah, that was just gonna
So
say,
do you
yeah,
want to-
about the organization and
So
what
do you
it
want-
promotes, how do you promote children's
mental
mental
health.
Okay, yeah, so thank you. The trust, our main motivation is to encourage people to speak up and ask for help, and the main way we do it is through these, which we call Cameron's coasters, and you can see, I don't know if people can read it, they're not able to read it, but it
Yeah,
says on
but
the front,
IT, could you please help us to share the link of Cameron Trust, the web link, please, if that's okay?
so we call these Cameron's coasters, and on the front they say there's always someone you can talk to, and on the back they've got information with help. And we would work with a school or a university and make sure that the information on the back is the information that's most important for the pupils at the school or the students at the university or people at a sports club or anything like that. So that's the main thing that we do, in terms of getting the message out. And then we have related plastic cards which carry the same message, and you could keep in a wallet, so you've always got the help information to hand. And
So let me see what it says again.
yeah.
Talk to us. We want to listen and help. Also, you have like a
Well,
hotline.
we're directing people to hotlines.
So
They're
you
not our
signpost
hotline.
people.
We signpost, exactly.
Okay. So you signpost people to Payros. Oh, I haven't heard of Payros.
That Papyrus.
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 Yes,
Okay. I
like
haven't
the
heard of-
Egyptians.
I haven't heard of this service.
So Papyrus is a national charity in the UK
Yeah.
dedicated to prevention of young suicide. And one of the pieces of information is how to contact their Hopeline UK.
Okay.
And that's that Hopeline UK will help anyone under
I don't think they
35,
can see, yeah.
and they'll also help anyone worried about someone under 35. So they're a very, very good organisation. We also always direct people to Samaritans because they're
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah.
But Papyrus don't operate overnight. And also on there we
Mind
have information
people.
about Mind.
Yeah,
But
mind.
These are all national helplines, and we would then do a version for
The
your
local.
church or your
Yeah.
school or your.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh,
That's good. So the papyrus is spelled Papyrus. Okay?
I think it's part of
Yeah.
the
It's on the can people find this on Cameron Grant's website?
Yes, they can.
Okay. I know IT will still
IT's
show
gonna
it.
show it, yes.
Yeah, they will show it. They have got the information. We have a question from one of our
Oh, great.
viewers before we go into our questions. So, Chidinma, thank you. Amazing show. My question is, how can we identify someone with mental health if they always seem happy alone and around people? So she's saying when somebody is upbeat, how do you recognize if they have mental health?
So I think the difficult answer to that is sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
If somebody works really hard to hide it, then it would be very difficult to spot. Or the signs might be smaller. And again, from my point of view, one of the key things is to look for changes in behaviour.
Look for changes in behavior.
I think Deborah's answer had said something at the beginning about the norm. So
Yeah.
understanding the norm and then knowing
For that
knowing what's
person.
variations from it. And I think in a case like that, then it's more likely to be evident to people very close to that person because they know the norm.
Yeah. So obviously, if you're a stranger, you won't really know. And people close to that person, children and young people, could be the
Okay, that's there,
parents.
putting it on, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got Cam Grant's website
great,
on
thank
the
you.
the screen. So please click there to know more about the organization of Evan and Caro. So what I was trying to say, people that would know more about the person is people close to them. So when we're talking about children and young people, it could even be their class teacher that may notice for like primary school age or second to say, oh, in terms of, let's come up with a name now, Shannon's mood has changed a bit. She tends to be quite upbeat, but now recently she's been quiet. And then I would hope the school will reach out to the parent to ask, is there anything going on at home, etc.? Or they will even speak to the child. That should actually be the first thing the school should be doing. Speak to the child to explore that. You're right, is everything okay? And parents will also pick up. So for adult to adult, I think if that person is a stranger, you might not be able to pick that up, except you're close. Because if somebody presents as happy, you wouldn't know. When I was
Yeah,
going
you
through
wouldn't
my
know.
phase,
Yeah.
nobody else outside of that went really close to me, you know?
Well, they did because you were hiding, so they didn't see you.
So they didn't
That's-
see you, so they knew it was obvious.
Yeah, but-
they knew something was wrong with you.
Yeah, but if the people, even though they knew something was wrong, people that didn't have the awareness of mental health was thinking, oh, she was ignoring us.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Oh, she's so antisocial. Because people are quick to,
But that's the thing, people that were close to you knew there was something wrong with
I
you.
guess
There
so.
was,
So they
you
were
know,
able to notice
yeah.
the changes. We've got a couple of comments. I'm just going to read them out. So in answer to Chidinma, how do you identify someone with mental health if they always seem happy? It's
Yeah,
really
he said,
difficult.
it's a bit difficult.
Except you
know,
have
but
a
they
close
need to take notes.
relationship.
Yeah,
And
and they pay attention to the moods.
of course, it may be impossible, and in Cameron's case, nobody.
As
spotted it, yeah.
parents. Yeah, okay.
Yes, in Cameron's case, it was nobody. So as his parents, we didn't know, but neither did his housemates or his classmates or anybody, because he managed to hide it.
How old was he when he
He was 21.
21?
Yeah.
Okay. Deborah's commented again, saying most children and young people grow up mentally healthy and well. However, research has shown that the pressures young people now face is greater than those of 30 years ago. This could be as a result of the experiences, social expectations, and also support networks. Thank you, Deborah. And we've got another comment by Tom. Tom said, mental health issues in the UK is so prevalent than Nigeria. The family life, social environment, and work-life environment is so pressurized. Very limited support, no community support, although there are professional support such as CAMS. CAMS stands for Child Adolescent Mental Health Service, but the staff are overworked and families have less faith in the system. Lack of resources and professionals also to take up the roles. I think we should elaborate on that. So what Tom here is saying, I believe is from a Nigerian background, it might be. So what he's saying is that in terms of the ethnic minority, in terms of the setup, people do have, some people, it's not across board, some ethnic minorities have less family support because perhaps most of their family members may be back in Africa, Asia. So he's saying that there's that limited family support networks, and also there's also the pressure for the parents to work to make ends meet for their children and for the extended family back, let's say home, for example. So he's saying that the pressure is the parent may not even notice the changes because they're not even at home. Because they're always working and working and working. They're trying to make ends meet. And they may not be aware of service. And he's even saying that, we're talking about mental health. Even if they've noticed the changes in their children, the services out there, the NHS service, for example, Child Adolescent Mental Health Service, which in our local area in Coventry and Warwickshire is called RISE. That's the name, is called NINGE, Warwickshire and Coventry. So what he's saying is that services there's lots of pressure with services. But that should still not stop people from reaching out for support. Do we agree on that?
Yes, because if you don't reach out, you're definitely not getting support.
Yeah. And you can go private as well if you can afford.
Yeah, but I think as well, a lot of things in many circumstances, it's possible to help before it's a medical problem. So one of the things I wanted to mention, prompted by the questions you guys sent me in advance, was the 5 ways to well-being.
Yeah,
which
I've heard about that.
Yeah, so I think you can see 5 ways to well-being. You can find on many NHS sites and the Mind UK website, and it talks about being physically active as one of the ways, because physical activity helps your mental health as well. It's not just your physical fitness. It talks about learning. So continuing to learn, whether we're talking about young people who would usually be in school and learning, but it could be learning something outside school as well, a musical instrument or something.
Yeah.
So be active, learn, connect. So it's connect with people.
Connect with people.
And I loved your five people on hand, but you can connect people here in the church. You can connect people through sports teams, through school.
Communities.
Connecting with people. So the opposite of your experience when you were withdrawing to your room.
So socializing.
Connecting with people is a good one.
So be active.
Yeah.
Be active, which involves physical.
Yep. But
or
remember,
could be anything.
that doesn't mean you have to go to the gym or play football. It could be
take a walk.
Take a walk in the park. You know, being active doesn't need to be a very difficult thing. But just getting out and having a walk, there are benefits of being outside
are
in
people
the daylight.
being active? I wonder.
Yeah.
Are we being active? Because obviously we need to be talking to ourselves too.
Yes. Well, you could perhaps look at me and think I need to be more active. But
I'm not.
We have two very enthusiastic dogs that require quite a lot of walking. So at least I'm out regularly walking the dogs.
That's nice.
And so be active.
Be active.
Keep learning. Connect.
We should write that down actually.
Yeah. Sort of notice and be in the moment. So don't always be worrying about the future or dwelling on the past.
Which could bring worries, isn't it?
Broadly, people talk about mindfulness, but actually just notice what's going on. So if you are taking that walk in the park, enjoy what you see there in the moment. So I always manage to miss one. So we're active.
Keep learning,
connect.
Don't worry.
When you think about it, let us know. Oh, you've got it
I
there.
brought my
Yeah,
crib
that's
sheet,
fine. You
because
can share.
I'm always tempted to forget one.
It's okay.
Give to others.
Oh,
to others.
giving.
And yeah, so that would be a terrible one to forget. And again, just as with being active, so it doesn't mean you go and have to sweat for an hour in the gym. You can take a walk, and it can be, that's great. Giving can be as simple as smiling to someone on the street.
Smiling.
And it always reminds me, Carol and I had an experience where we had collection tins with the rag out in the street, the student rag, to collect some money for Cameron's charity. And we were just shocked at how horrible it was to be trying to attract people's attention. They were almost walking on the other side of the road, and certainly looking down and passing by, and it was really quite a difficult experience to be treated that way. And I try now to make sure at least smile at people,
Smile
even if I'm not always giving the money. But it isn't about giving the money, it's
Yeah.
about actually just connecting as people.
I think one thing what I'd like us to do before I read that, well, I'll read the comment for, the what did you call it? The
5 ways to well-being.
5 ways to I think I've heard about it through my workplace as well.
It's
yeah.
very, there's a lot of it around,
Yeah.
and it's a good, they're good things to think of
Yes.
in terms of stopping to get ill in the first
Yeah.
place. So
I think the 5 ways to well-being, it would be good for us to link it to children and young people. Our parent could promote these 5 ways to well-being. But on that note, let me just read a couple of comments. We have got a number of people watching. And somebody commented, Libya, she's one of our hosts as well. Hello, Libya. Learning a lot, great show, well done. And then Tom said again, children and young people are no longer playing freely outside, but on the computer games. And these are putting pressure on children's mental well-being. What's your take on this?
yeah, maybe putting pressure on their eyesight as well. But it's when we were talking about the 5 ways to well-being, I'm saying one of the benefits of being active is being outside, and it's quite important to get some sunlight at some point during the day. So I'm not here to say computer games are the root of all evil, but actually, yeah. So all things in balance. So.
Yeah, because I think if I understand what he's trying to say, I think these days a lot of children pay more attention. They would rather just stay in their room all alone
That's
on the
true.
computer. So
Oh,
they are not,
Xbox.
they isolate themselves, you
That's
could actually
true.
have teenagers in the house and not even know they're at home at all,
That's
because
true.
they're just on their Xbox,
Yeah.
and they're just there. So they're not communicating with anybody, they're not socializing, they're not,
Well,
so it's just the
Sometimes they're
computers, well.
connecting, they've got the headset on and they're playing some sort of group game and so
Group
forth.
game,
So there
yeah.
could be some connection, but there's certainly not a lot of physical activity.
Yeah, it's not a lot of
and,
yeah.
and as you say, they're inside, and maybe with the dark, maybe the windows covered to
Yeah.
avoid reflections on the screen. So
And
Because I know sometimes even when you're on the bus-
it's a form of isolation.
Yeah, because again, sometimes you're on the bus or on the train, and then everyone is quiet. Everyone is just on the
Looking
phone.
on the phone.
Looking on the phone. No one is talking to anybody. But, in those days when we didn't have the phones, when we didn't have... I'm not saying it's not good, you know what I mean? But when we didn't have the phones, when we didn't have so much of computer, people used to, talk to each other, play outside, outdoor games.
So yes, but we all have to recognise the world's changed. So
Yeah,
what
we
I'm
have to
saying is
recognise. I think it's moderation.
If it's sort of obsessive gaming in the dark
Yeah.
all day, every day, it's
Yes.
clearly bad. And I'm not saying don't do computer games, but have a break and do some stuff outside as well.
Yes.
I think one thing I'll say is, I agree with you. The world has changed. This is the time of internet. Children and young people will
But
be
striking the balance,
Yeah,
having
it's
the
all about
balance.
striking the balance. Because I feel like too much of games and the timing of playing the games could affect even social interaction. And parents may not even be able to notice the change as well. Even the young
Yeah.
person, they could be using too much of whatever games to mask their issue. Do you get what I mean? So let's say somebody's going through something. They try to mask it away by just going on.
Well,
playing-
somebody said earlier, didn't they, that the parents are under such pressure too, and maybe sending money back to a family overseas,
Yeah.
and they don't have time to be there in the moment
Yeah,
with the
so
kids,
parent,
and so it's
yes.
actually can be a relief if the
Yes.
kids, you said, you may not know they're in the house, you think, result,
That's true.
Yeah,
So
but no,
even
you-
parents, we have a
Yeah,
role
no,
to play.
I mean, I've been there and done that at times in the past, but it's not. If it's all the time, it's bad.
All
Yeah.
the time. Okay, we've got a couple of comments. Libya said, learning a law, great show, well done. And then Lynette, hi Lynette, thank you for watching. Lynette Webb said, sometimes we notice that something is not right with children and we'll call them strange or shy, but they may be having challenges that they don't recognize. We have to give children who are strange or shy just as much attention as those who may be loud or outgoing, as all of them may be suffering.
Yeah,
That's a good
said,
point.
Well said, yeah.
That's a good point. So whether a child is very outspoken or shy or quiet, they might be suffering. So we need to keep observing our children and young people.
Yeah, and if the behaviour is strange, it's to think what's behind it,
What's behind
and not
it.
just deal with the surface.
That's true. So we need to look at the root cause,
Yeah.
essentially.
And it can be hard to find.
It can be hard.
Yeah.
It can be. And also, it's not necessarily a short-term solution, isn't it? Seeking support by a professional. Okay, more comment. Taiwo. Hello, Taiwo. Thank you for watching. I am glad I watched this show with lovely topic to discuss and lots of knowledge and insight. I say a good job to the team behind this fantastic program. Thank you, Taiwo.
Good team.
Tom said, mental health issues have been ignored and poor funding has negatively impacted on services. Tom, it appears that you might work with NHS because his comment is showing that he is very concerned about maybe the funding within health services out there. Simi, thank you for watching. With regards to Chidima's question, Deborah has replied saying that with regards to Chidima's question and to her to Evan's point, response, in terms of the risk factors, there are certain risk factors that make some children and young people susceptible to mental health issues than other children, but the list are not exhaustive. Some of these factors include having a long-term physical illness, having a parent who has had mental health problems, or parents with alcohol, or somebody that has been in trouble with the law, experiencing the death of somebody close to them, having parents who separate or divorce, having been severely bullied. Bullying can come into it as well, that's true. Having been physically abused, having been sexually abused, living in poverty or being homeless, experiencing discrimination because of their race, sexuality, religion. Also, a child or young people could also be impacted by acting as a carer for a relative, that's true. Talking on adult responsibility, also having long-standing educational difficulties. We've got so many comments. Simi said, I'm totally enjoying this show and also learning a lot, so much insight. Sami said, hello all, great show. One key thing I've learned here is to look out for changes. Sometimes these changes are internal. One important thing is to develop a good relationship with our children so that they can also run to us when they need help. Sometimes children will speak to adults they are free with. As parents, we should be a first option. Tom goes again. I'm going to give us a pause after this. Tom said, one more after. Tom said, research has shown that Black and ethnic minorities have more problem with mental health issues and very limited support network. That's true. I think I'm going to challenge every family watching to do the 5 fingers with their children and young people. Ask your children to come up with 5 trusted people, apart from mom and dad, if there is a mom and dad in the household. Who else would they reach out to if they were feeling really low or anxious? And let me read a comment by one of the head of our department. I believe he sent a message. Let's see. Okay. No, he hasn't left a comment. So, moving on.
So, what the next question I was going to ask you is, someone asked a question and said, what was the question again?
How do we promote?
No, not how do we promote. We've answered that, yeah. Is mental health difficulty peculiar to certain communities? What do you think? Do you think it's peculiar to certain communities?
So, as we've talked many times, mental health and mental health problems can affect anyone. So then we're into risk factors, and you just read out a great list of risk factors, and as I understand it, there is evidence that Black and
ethnic minorities
have being in that community is a great risk factor, but whether that is it's unlikely that's genetic. It's more to do with the other risk factors,
That's
perhaps
true.
perhaps social circumstances, perhaps other discrimination and so forth. And that you talked about the lack of support networks and so
Yeah.
forth. So I think there's some evidence to show that there is a great risk, but it's not clear why there's a great risk, if that makes sense.
And I think one thing in terms of, I know, whenever you've noticed a risk of something, you need to see how you can minimize the risk, or let's say eradicate the risk if
Yes, so,
possible.
but the question is, how then do you eradicate or minimize the risk? Would you would you
Yeah.
like to share?
So I forget who was it that sent the list of risk factors, because
Deborah
Deborah
did.
Deborah. So there are some things you
Let's-
can't change, like your genes. So then there are other things that cause
Poverty,
So
you can
so
still get support
so
with that.
these are all things which you clearly, one way or another, if it's not individually, but as groups or society, we can aim to change. I mean, I can't give the answer to anyone about how to solve their particular circumstances of
that's
poverty,
true.
but social deprivation is a risk factor.
Yeah.
So collectively, how we change that is a challenge for us all.
For
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the so how you address it depends on it's different for each of the risk
It
factors.
is.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I wanted to say in terms of my job role, Children's Services do try to minimize social issues. So let's say, I'll give you an example, because obviously people have mentioned about ethnic minority being, could be a risk factor. Another way that you could minimize it, if you feel like you have been discriminated and it's impacting your mental well-being, is what they tend to advise in order to minimize is perhaps try to go to an environment, a community that you'll be a majority. So that's why you've got some people, they go to a religious sort of community center, whether there is more of, they see people of similar ethnic minority as them. So there's sort of majority there rather than minority. So they've got people that have similar likes and similar values, similar cultures, and they're free to share, even similar language maybe. So that way, that could make you to be a majority, and it could minimize the sort of discrimination that you're exposed to if that's impacting on your mental health. So let's say somebody, for example, their mental health is being affected by poverty, for example. You can, in order to minimize that as a family, you can look into the benefit that you're entitled to, isn't it? You can go to Citizen Advice Bureau to get advice about sort of how you can be, even looking for a job, part-time job. If let's say a parent is working too much, maybe they might need to consider the type of job they're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and I mean, of course, we're sitting here in the Jubilee Christian Centre, and
That's true.
and Shay said you have 500 people here for the service. And
Yeah.
that's a wonderful community, which must help tremendously.
And
Yes,
it does
it
help
does.
to
It
promote
does help,
people's
yeah, it does. It
mental
does
health,
help to promote
because
people's mental health.
predominantly the church members are of black communities. So I would say
And they
that's
have people, they talk to each other as well, a lot
Yeah.
of people talk to each other, so.
Attempts to
I
build
know
their
that
support
really helps,
networks.
Yes. Is there anything, children, need for a good mental health, to promote their mental health? Are there things that they need?
So I think I'd talk again about the 5 ways to well-being.
Yeah.
be
you know.
active.
So being active.
So how can they be active, children and young people? What can parents do?
So remembering that being active doesn't necessarily mean being involved in extreme sport.
So extreme sports.
So we could talk about a situation. I don't know how to talk about this without it sounding a bit trivial. But clearly people can walk to school, they can cycle bikes,
Yeah.
they can
Swimming,
walk up the stairs, they can go swimming,
sports.
they can go out in the park, kick a ball around. I mean, I'm going to sound like an old person now. I don't know all the ways to suggest to someone who's
We're just giving
14
tips.
in Coventry the right way to do it, but it doesn't need to be anything difficult that involves spending money or going to the gym.
Okay,
Actually, just walk into and for school.
Yeah.
that's
As simple
true.
as that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Saturday
Walk
for
into school.
parents that maybe they were even after school in the evening.
Yeah.
The work
Yeah.
doesn't need to be
Gardening.
in the morning.
Gardening, that's a good
yeah,
one,
spending
yes.
time in the
You could
garden,
be in
yeah.
the moment with the nature when you're gardening as well. And I think that well, you painted the opposite picture earlier of somebody stuck in a dark room just looking at computer screens. So
Yeah.
anything that moves you away from that.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about, so we've talked about being
Learning.
active. What about learning? How can parents promote their children and young people mental health through learning?
So clearly they're in school, yeah, so they're learning there. And it might be that they can learn something outside school that would help.
That's true.
We talked about whether they want to get involved in music or
Music.
some other activity.
So is it,
How about reading books as well?
that's true.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I think for learning, it was important for parents to expose their children to various
To
things
new
and also
things,
to
yeah.
look at what they're interested in, isn't it?
Yes.
Because
I
if
don't-
not, how would they?
there's no force fit here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because they have
the
to
young
enjoy
person's
what they're
going to have to
learning,
want,
isn't
want,
it?
Yeah,
want,
they've
gonna have
got-
to want to do it. Yeah?
Yes.
So look for ways, other things that they might learn,
Okay.
and that could be something that's online as well. So
That's
I'm
true,
not-
online.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we spoke about connecting as well. Yeah, you already spoke about connecting
How
with
can
other
we,
people. Yeah.
our children and young people to connect? Maybe spending time with relatives, coming to church, religious group.
Yeah, Cubs and Scouts,
Yeah,
sports teams.
That's true.
Yeah,
So parents should not minimize all these things we've just mentioned because they have a role to play in promoting
yeah. So of course,
mental well-being.
in a sports team, you're getting a bit of physical activity and some connection.
That's true.
And then how can we help children not to get anxious, because you spoke about don't worry, do not worry about, the future, do not worry about things that will happen.
Past.
So how can we speak to them? How can we encourage them not to worry about, the future? Not to be anxious, for example, with their GCSEs?
It's true. I don't know if we can
Well, these are-
completely
yeah. So
eradicate
these.
worry, isn't it?
So I think that's a very difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
And what I would say is, I would want my child to know that I loved and supported him or her regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's something that I also practice. It's called keep, stop, and change. So what can you keep? Like, let's say, for example, you're talking about your GCSE. What can we keep doing about preparing for GCSE? What do we need to stop doing that may affect our GCSE? We need to stop worrying. What do we need to start doing? So keep, stop, and start. What do we need to start doing about GCSE that will take away the worries? So keep, stop, and start. You can use it for so many things. Because the worry will always be there, but we need to stop worrying. We need to start doing something about the worry. Is there something you can change? No. So what can we start doing? We've got a couple of comments. Viewers, they've really enjoyed this show. I, Tom, once again, hello. Social isolation is one of the greatest risk factors
Yes,
in
it
causing
Yes.
poor mental health issues. In the UK, people hardly talk to each other. And I think it's getting worse, isn't it? With this whole internet, social media. And also, Oko commented,
Oh, I'm reminded of a cartoon from the time of the London Olympics, and it's that the fellow's come home to his wife, and he said, "Someone spoke to me on the tube today. It's like being in a foreign country."
because that hardly
In
happened.
the Olympics, that's what happened. In the
anymore.
Olympics, it was so happy for just a few weeks.
Because that hardly happened.
Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore.
Even year 4, year 3 children are having phones now.
Do you know, and I think one of the things we talked about earlier was sometimes it's very difficult to spot signs. But if I turn that around, Tom's saying that people don't talk to each other, and sometimes we don't take notice either. So if we were out in the street and saw a child in distress, would we all stop and try to help the child in
That's
distress?
Yeah.
true.
Most
Or
times we
a
don't.
child or an older person, but it's noticing these things, and it doesn't need to be difficult. It can be just asking about the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes,
Use that to start
someone
a
said something.
conversation.
That's
Exactly.
a great British conversation.
Yeah.
I know.
And someone actually said something that, sometimes if you see people just saying, "Oh, hello, how are you? How's your day been?" It's just, a big start.
a
But
smile.
yeah, it puts a smile on people,
That's true.
No, nothing too serious, okay? That could just make them open up.
Open
Yeah.
up.
Sometimes, "Oh, are you okay? How are you doing?" It's a big start.
Yeah, let me
goodness.
just read it. You want to say something before I read the comments?
I was going to say I'm Scottish. I don't smile very much, but I try.
But at least people closer to you, I'm sure Carol would know that that's how you are. Maybe if you smile too much, Carol may go, "Is everything all
It's a
right?
problem. Yeah.
Do you need something?" Okay, Oko said, Oko, hi Hoko, thank you for watching. Thanks to the team for the enlightenment on this topic. Great insight. Lynette also commented, thank you, Lynette. The stigma stops a lot of people from seeking help
Yes, it
because they
does.
don't want to look like they are crazy or have children with issues, when in reality they are helping themselves before become better and better able to handle life pressures. Children can be harsh on each other's. So hearing someone is getting help, they may be teased. So what she's saying is that
Telling people about how you feel, how telling people about your mental health
yeah,
may make them
Yeah,
make them
being teased.
tease
As
you.
yeah, that's true.
I think there is definitely times when there's a sort of herd thing with kids and someone that's slightly strange will get picked upon. And you talked about bullying earlier,
Yeah,
and that makes it
bullying.
worse. And it may also be difficult for people to speak up for the fear of that. Yeah.
Of
Yeah,
being
Evan, can I
teased.
quickly ask, because we're going to be rounding up now, you know, what advice would you have for,
Still
you
got
know,
about 2
parents?
comments.
What
Yeah,
advice, okay, so should we take the comments first before the advice?
So we can.
You guys are in
Yes,
charge.
Okay.
yes. Okay, the last 2 comments says, in my profession, this is Chinwe. Hello, Chinwe. Thank you for watching. In my profession, there's a large number of children coming into hospital with deliberate overdoses, self-harm, attempting suicide. Some of these children appear normal on the outside, very calm and polite, and you wonder there is a large number of children suffering around us. We pass them daily. Thanks for this topic. We need a part 2, please. And Deborah commented that we also need a part 2. Thank you all for your comment. IT, before we obviously prepare to wrap up, could you please help us to display some of the organizations within Coventry and Warwickshire that families can reach out to in terms of seeking support? Because there is a couple of websites that we've shared. So IT, please help us to display it on the screen if possible.
So what advice would you like to give to, you know, to parents out there, you know, struggling with children that have got mental illness, and maybe parents generally, because some people don't even know that, you know, their children have got mental illness, you know. So what advice would you like to give to parents out there?
Well, that's another challenging question because, of course, sadly, I'm a parent who didn't know that his son had mental health problems, and he's no longer with us. I think none of this is easy, and I'm really conscious of one of the themes of our discussion about the fact that, you know, the parents are crazy busy as well as the kids and are under pressure at school, and there's not time for anything. And I think the answers around always finding a way to make time, and making sure your kid knows that you can listen, because it's so easy in a rush just to jump in and say, snap out of it or something similar, or don't be silly, and that is not going to encourage anyone to open up and talk. And so it's easy for me to say make time and make sure that your child knows that you're there to listen in a sort of calm, non-judgmental way. Easy to say, difficult to do. But then I think in terms of positive steps to move forward, I think the 5 ways to well-being we've discussed is a great thing to keep in mind. And there's no universal answers, but these are good things to aim for. You know, the connection, the activity,
Learning.
keeping learning and giving. Even in giving is just smiling at someone in the street. I'll let you know that.
So
Wow,
final
so
nuggets.
many nuggets have left.
Final nuggets from you, Funke. Please don't talk about the 5s, because that's what I'm going to talk about.
I was going to mention the 5 ways to
No,
well.
no, no,
However,
no.
a nugget that I'll be taking with me today is to watch out for changes in children and young people. It's very important to watch out for changes and just to recognize that mental health affects everyone. And watch out for changes is very important, and to remember that mental health can affect everyone. And also, I'm taking 3 nuggets away. Watch out for changes. Mental health can affect everyone. And also to recognize there's so many pressures out there now that can impact on mental health, especially for young people as they get older.
Yeah, thank you, Funke. For me, the nugget I'll be taking home is first ask. Always seek for help. There's help out there, you know, ask for help. And Funke said something about the 5 people you can always connect to, 5 people you can always talk to. You know, try and locate the 5 people that you can freely speak to apart from your parents, you know. And the third one I'm going to take home again is the 5, what's that again?
The 5 ways to well-being.
The 5
So
ways
we've
to
got the
well-being.
be
So we've got
active,
the be active,
learning,
don't worry, learning, giving, and
Connect.
connecting.
Yeah,
And
connecting.
connecting. Yes. I don't know if, Evan, you've got any nugget for us.
Any
Just
nug-
one thing
any nuggets that
Yes.
you'd like our viewers.
that you like to
I
give.
think.
Yeah.
Just keep smiling.
Oh,
Yes,
keep smiling.
So from all of us here today, we're just going to say to you, keep smiling,
Keep smiling.
keep smiling, and keep smiling till we come back again in 2
2
weeks'
weeks'
time.
time.
This is Family Nugget,
where life begins and love never ends. Bye.
Bye.